My name is Erica Reyes. I'm 34, a software developer who survived 7 grueling years of freelance coding marathons just to afford a sleek sedan in Chicago, Illinois. Never in my worst nightmares did I imagine my own parents cornering me at a tense family dinner, insisting I hand it over to my sister, as if it were just some forgotten spare in their garage. We were all packed around the Neatville dining table, the air heavy with unspoken expectations. Mom, with her signature tone of unwavering certainty, declared, "Your car is the perfect gift for your sister. She's starting new ventures, and you can always get a more basic lease." Dad, stern as ever, chimed in, "Family comes first. Erica, it's time to step up." My sister, her eyes gleaming as if she'd already imagined herself behind the wheel, jumped in. "I'll turn the trunk into a mobile office for client meetings. You understand, right?" The demand hit me like a sudden slam of the brakes. My heart raced as I gripped the edge of the table. 7 years of early mornings debugging code, sacrificing weekends, scraping every penny for that down payment. It all seemed invisible to them, like I had just been taking it for a test drive. They expected me to hand over the keys because her recent startup failed. The audacity ignited a fire in me. I leaned forward, my voice firm. "If you push this, my response will reveal a family secret that will shatter everything you've been hiding." What happened next? Oh, the revelations flipped their plan upside down and exposed the rot beneath it all. Before I dive into that explosive confrontation, a story of deception, boundaries drawn in steel, and reclaiming what's mine. Drop a comment with where you're watching from. If your family ever tried to take what you earned through sweat, spill your story below. Hit like if this hits home, and subscribe for more unfiltered tales of standing up to those who should support you most. Your engagement keeps these real-life dramas alive. As kids in Neatville, Illinois, my sister Yvonne and I were inseparable. We'd huddle in the living room after school, laptops on our laps, tinkering with basic coding tutorials we found online. At 8 and 12, I was experimenting with simple game scripts. Tiny pixelated adventures where characters jumped over obstacles, while Yvonne mocked up flashy website layouts with colorful buttons and headers. We'd trade screens, laughing at her neon pop-ups clashing with my clunky spaceship levels. "We're going to build the next big app," she'd declare, braid swinging, and we'd high-five over our makeshift studio dreams. Back then, our modest suburban home buzzed with creativity. Mom praised our glitchy demos, and Dad printed screenshots to pin on the bulletin board. But by elementary school, cracks began to show. At 14, Yvonne dove headfirst into business ventures, sketching e-commerce sites inspired by teen entrepreneur magazines. Mom and Dad funneled resources her way. A new tablet for her 16th birthday, online marketing courses in Evanston, even a trip to a startup workshop in Chicago. She had that unmistakable entrepreneurial spark. Mom would glow watching Yvonne design a virtual storefront, filling it with stock images of the latest gadgets. At first, I didn't mind. My own experiments leaned toward programming challenges, spending hours debugging free software on our shared desktop. But when I asked for a $40 coding app to practice algorithms, Dad brushed it aside. "Budgets are tight right now, Erica," he'd say. Meanwhile, Yvonne's course fees doubled that amount without a second thought. Middle school only made the contrast sharper. At 10, I was already coding multiple apps for school projects, imagining a future as a software engineer. I'd stay up late researching scholarships for Northwestern University, convinced it was my way out. Meanwhile, Yvonne, 16 and brimming with drive, had private business mentoring sessions lined up, her desk overflowing with notebooks from Mom's bargain shopping trips. When I got a part-time library job shelving books just to afford a basic laptop, Mom barely noticed, too focused on signing Yvonne up for yet another entrepreneurship seminar. "Your sister's destined for success," she'd say, brushing off my coding club entries as mere play. Dad, ever the silent enabler, didn't object, tipping the scales even further. By my early teens, the favoritism was glaringly obvious. I scraped together enough money from odd jobs, mowing lawns, delivering flyers, late nights fixing bugs, to attend a coding boot camp at 12. Every penny felt like a hard-won battle. Yvonne, on the other hand, slid into a business program at a community college near Evanston, all expenses covered by our parents. She needs the boost to thrive. Mom insisted when I dared ask why they wouldn't support my online courses. I swallowed the hurt, doubled down on self-taught lessons, and promised myself I'd succeed without waiting for their handouts. Yvonne's path stumbled exactly as expected. In her first semester, she skipped lectures, chasing flashy social media pitches instead of assignments. By the second year, she quit, claiming the real-world hustles suited her better. Mom and Dad didn't bat an eye, funneling more money into her ventures. Domain registrations, ad campaigns for her online shop. I'd call from my tiny room, exhausted from library shifts, only to hear about her newest pitch deck. She's carving her own path, Dad would say, as if my straight-A report cards and freelance gigs were irrelevant. I'd end the call, staring at my secondhand monitor, wondering why my efforts never seemed to matter. Those years etched a deep rift between us. Yvonne and I drifted apart, our coding sessions buried beneath her pampered schemes and my lonely grind. I still cared for her, but the bitterness wasn't aimed at her directly. It was at the unfair rules our parents enforced. When I finally left for college, weighed down but determined, I thought I had escaped that imbalance. I was wrong. The patterns returned, sharper than ever. After earning my software engineering degree from a state college, I dove into freelancing. The diploma came with a mountain of student debt, but I threw myself onto platforms like Upwork, bidding on every app development and back-end scripting job I could find. My first Chicago apartment was a cramped studio with flickering lights and paper-thin walls, but it became my base of operations. I coded late into the night, fixing picky e-commerce clients' bugs, fueled by instant noodles and sheer grit. Early gigs paid just enough to cover rent and debt installments. Yeah, I built a portfolio that started to turn heads. A few years in, I landed a breakthrough contract with a startup in Evanston, overhauling their database system and integrating API endpoints for smoother user flows. That success snowballed. Soon, I was optimizing code for a logistics company downtown, creating custom software for a suburban retail chain, and even debugging security protocols for a small fintech firm. My client base expanded, and so did my savings. I was unstoppable, sending proposals during commutes, tweaking algorithms until sunrise, and directing every extra dollar into a fund labeled Wheels. Cruising through Chicago's busy streets, I'd eye sleek sedans, admiring their smooth engines and smart tech, promising myself one day. After 7 relentless years, I scraped together a down payment for a sleek sedan at a city dealership. My name on the title, a manageable loan in place, I pulled into my parking spot for the first time. Adjusting the mirrors, sinking my phone into the dashboard, it felt like a full claim on my independence. No more cramped buses or ride shares. This was the independence I had earned, step by step. Then Mom started calling more frequently. At first, her questions sounded casual. "How's the new car treating you, Erica?" she'd ask, her voice way too smooth, probing for details like mileage, tech features, and cargo space. Dad jumped in during weekend chats, asking about fuel efficiency and upkeep costs as if taking careful notes. I shrugged it off as normal parental curiosity, but the questions kept coming, each one sharper than the last, like they were cataloging my car for some hidden purpose. My sister Yvonne wasn't far behind, flooding my messages with links to car accessories and raving about how my sedan suited her entrepreneurial style. I shared a few photos to keep things polite, but unease started to creep in. Then they showed up unannounced. Mom and Yvonne arrived at my Chicago building on a rainy afternoon, insisting it was just a quick stop. Mom circled my car in the lot, inspecting every inch as if appraising it for auction. "Lots of trunk space here," she said, popping the latch to look inside. Yvonne, notebook in hand, started scribbling measurements, murmuring about converting the back seat into a mobile workspace for her pitches. I crossed my arms, standing my ground, as she slid behind the wheel, adjusting the seat and fiddling with the controls like it was already hers. "This setup is perfect for my reboot," she said, flipping down the sun visors. I snapped, sharper than I intended. "That's my car. I earned it." Mom laughed it off. "Just admiring your success, dear." but her sidelong glance at Yvonne spoke volumes. They were clearly in sync. That drop-in left me uneasy. Mom's persistent questioning, Yvonne's bold assessments, the orchestrated energy. It all screamed that trouble was brewing. I had built this stability project by project, and now my family seemed to treat my sedan as if it were up for grabs. Whatever scheme they were plotting, I wasn't about to ignore the warning signs. A few days later, Yvonne texted, asking for more details about the navigation system. Her excitement felt forced. I answered tersely, but the pressure kept mounting. Then came Mom's invitation for a family gathering back in Neepville, her message urgent and insistent. We should catch up soon. I felt this wasn't going to be a routine dinner. That evening I pulled up to the Neepville house expecting the usual family meal. Maybe some grilled burgers and light conversation. Instead, I walked into a scene that would upend everything. The dining room looked exactly the same. Familiar, worn chairs and the same floral placemats we'd had for years. Mom moved quickly, stacking plates of mashed potatoes and salad, while Dad carved a ham with steady hands on the cutting board. Yvonne sat at the table scrolling her phone, offering only a brief nod as I slid into my seat. We made it through the appetizers, exchanging surface-level updates about my recent projects and Yvonne's vague business plans. But the air felt heavy, like everyone was waiting for something to drop. Then Mom dropped it. She set her napkin down, fixed her eyes on me, and said, "Erica, we've talked about this. Your sedan would be the perfect family gift for your sister." My muscles tightened, but she kept going, calm as if she were commenting on the weather. "She's getting ready for her next venture, and that car would be ideal. You're stable enough to replace it." Dad chimed in, dabbing his mouth, framing it as family responsibility. His words carried the finality of a decision already made. Yvonne sat up, face brightening. "I can already picture the back seat as my mobile office," she said, pulling up her phone to show a rough sketch of my interior stuffed with laptops and folders. "Perfect for relaunching my brand. You're with us, right?" I glared across the table, my blood running hot. My sedan, the reward for 7 years of coding marathons, Miss Social Nights, and every paid script, was being handed over as casually as if it were a borrowed tool. I didn't have to think. "That's my car," I said, keeping my voice even but cutting. "I worked for it. It's not yours to reassign." Mom's face hardened into something sharp. "Don't be so selfish, Erica," she shot back. "Your sister needs this more than you do." Dad added in a rougher tone, "We raised you to put family first. This is family in action." Yvonne, relentless, kept up her sales pitch about using the dashboard for virtual meetings. Each new detail was fuel to my anger. I pushed my chair back so hard it scraped, the noise bouncing off the walls. "You have no right to dictate what belongs to me," I declared, locking eyes with Mom, then Dad, then Yvonne. "This isn't about family. This is about you." Taking my hard work to cover her failures. The room went still, their faces frozen in shock. Mom's lips pressed tight, Dad's brow furrowed, and Yvonne's phone finally went silent. I didn't wait for arguments. "I'm keeping my keys," I said, standing. End of discussion. I walked to the door, letting it slam behind me as I stepped into the cool night. Driving back to Chicago, my hands gripped the wheels so tightly my knuckles whitened. They had issued an ultimatum. Hand over the title, soon treating my achievement like a borrowed rental. But that dinner drew a line. I'd proven my independence for years, and no torrent of family pressure would erode it. Their game ended with me. The days after that meal felt like a siege. My phone never stopped lighting up. Mom left emotional voicemails. Dad sent curt texts. Yvonne bombarded me with endless messages, all hammering the same point. I was betraying the family. Mom would call during my coding breaks, her tone laced with guilt. "Erica, family sacrifices matter. You're blocking Yvonne's chance," she insisted. Dad's notes were blunt, urging me to reconsider for the greater good. Yvonne flooded my inbox with visions of her using my sedan on business trips, boasting about how its tech features could revive her floundering venture. Every ping felt like a jab, ratcheting up the pressure. I buried myself in work. Tight deadlines, refining scripts for a new inventory app, troubleshooting servers for a warehouse client in Evanston. But the bombardment never ceased. One afternoon, Mom left a pointed voicemail. "You're acting entitled, Erica. We didn't raise you to put yourself above your sister." Soon after, Yvonne sent a photo of a car organizer with the caption, "This would fit perfectly in your trunk." I'd contacted Harlan, a lawyer I found after a quick search, and he advised caution. Still, I clung to hope it was just persistent nagging, not a deeper scheme. Then the truth hit. Aunt Alberta, Mom's older sister, who had always stayed neutral in our disputes, called, inviting me and Uncle Milford to brunch near Naperville. Odd outreach. Over eggs and toast, Alberta leaned in, her voice low. "Your parents are in serious financial trouble," she said, glancing at Milford. He stirred his juice and nodded. They poured heavily into Yvonne's online venture. It failed, leaving them buried in loans. Alberta continued, "They're desperate to hide it, but we've overheard talk about your sedan as a quick way to cover the losses." The revelation hit me like a wave. Everything clicked. Mom's invasive questions, Yvonne's presumptuous plans, their sudden demand for my car. This wasn't favoritism. It was a scheme to pawn my asset to fix their mistakes. I left their house stunned, replaying every guilty twist in my mind. Back in Chicago, pacing my studio, the weight pressed down hard. "They're leveraging your success to erase their errors," I muttered, the realization solidifying my resolve. Harlan was already in my contacts, a sharp attorney known for handling vehicle and property disputes, recommended through a freelance network. "You need professional backup," he had said during our first consultation. Now, I sent him a brief rundown. The family pressure, their mounting debts, and my refusal. His reply came quickly. "This looks like they're counting on you folding. Let's protect your title." That evening, I dug deeper. I pulled up Yvonne's defunct business website, still floating online, complete with bold banners and product mock-ups. The shop itself was long gone, links dead-ended, but I remembered Mom bragging about funding the stock and running promotions. Alberta's warning made sense. A mismanaged operation, debts piling up, and my sedan eyed as collateral. I sent Harlan a summary, screenshots of Yvonne's site attached. His response was immediate. "Potential coercion here. I'll review your registration documents." The weight of it hit me. Every plea about family unity was a thinly veiled attempt to shove their fallout onto me. I wasn't just defending my car. I was reclaiming control of my life from their financial trap. Yvonne's failed ambitions and our parents' reckless decisions weren't going to dictate my path. The following week, an email arrived with a subject line that made my stomach drop: vehicle title transfer form. The attachment listed Yvonne as the new owner of my sleek sedan, notarized, claiming I had approved it as a family gesture. My hand shook as I scrolled through it. My signature crudely forged at the bottom. I had never touched this document. I forwarded it to Harlan with a sharp note. "This is fake. Advice, please." I was in the middle of a meeting at a downtown co-working space when the confrontation would come. But that storm hadn't hit yet. For now, the counterfeit form fueled my preparations. Harlan analyzed it. "Clear forgery, no legal weight. Your title is safe, and we can pursue fraud if they try to push it." I nodded to myself over the phone, determination settling in. Their desperation had slipped into outright deceit, but with Harlan's guidance, I was ready. My sedan remained mine, and their schemes were unraveling. Later, I was deep in a virtual meeting at my co-working hub in Chicago when chaos hit. Mom, Dad, Daddy Va, and a woman I vaguely recognized barged in, making a scene that drew attention from nearby desks. The woman, Octavia, my sister's former business partner from her failed venture, clutched a folder and wore a smug grin. Mom stormed forward, her voice booming enough to freeze conversation mid-sentence. "Erica, we're settling this right here. Right now," she demanded, slapping the forged title onto my keyboard. "You agreed to give the sedan to Yvonne. Finish it or we're done." Dad loomed behind her, arms crossed, a silent nod reinforcing the threat. Yvonne brandished her phone dramatically, her presence daring me to comply. "I've got blueprints to convert it into my mobile hub," she pressed. "Don't drag this out." The room went silent, my colleagues hovering over their screens. Octavia stepped forward, flicking her hair. Your parents and I are buried in debt from that failed startup, she snapped. Your car clears the slate. It's fair. My thoughts spun, but I kept my composure. I never signed off on that. I jabbed at the papers. This is a sham and you know it. Before they could fire back, I dialed Harlan and put him on speaker. His voice cut through the tension. I've reviewed the form, he said. It's fraudulent. No legal weight. Erica's title is secure, and I'm ready to pursue forgery charges if you push this further. Mom's expression twisted while Yvonne's voice shrilled. You're so greedy, Erica. This saves the family. The words carried venom, dripping with favoritism, but I held my ground. My coworkers gawked, some fidgeting with phones, likely alerting security. I messaged Ursula, the dealership manager where I'd bought the sedan, attaching the fake document. Her reply came instantly. Verified your records. Title's yours. That document is worthless. I turned my screen toward them. Game over, I said, steady. This is my property. You can't rewrite my efforts to cover your mistakes. Octavia scoffed, but Dad shifted uncomfortably, eyes down. Mom stepped closer, finger jabbing. You're abandoning us, she hissed. After everything we've done for you. Yvonne's former partner tugged her sleeve, sensing defeat. Harlan's line crackled again. I'm preparing a restraining order, he warned. Any more tricks and it's court. The ultimatum landed. Mom grabbed her bag, jaw tight, as Dad followed silently, avoiding eye contact. Yvonne glared one last time before Octavia dragged her off. As they left, whispers from my peers filled the room. I slumped back, Harlan's reassurance lingering. The fake title, their audacious move. It had been a desperate attempt to force me into submission. But armed with facts and support from Harlan and Ursula, I had pushed them back. My sedan remained mine, and their scheme lay in ruins. A week later, I resolved to strike decisively. Harlan had collected proof. The forged document, records of debts from Yvonne's failed venture, and logs of harassment. This is financial fraud, he advised. Report it to the IRS. Let the system take over. I compiled the files anonymously, including bank statements Alberta had discreetly shared, exposing unreported loans tied to the business. Submitting the tip online felt like unleashing a storm, revealing hidden assets and potential tax evasion from the startup collapse. The consequences hit fast. Through Aunt Alberta, I learned IRS agents were raiding the Naperville house, auditing every transaction. Investments in Yvonne's venture had sidestepped regulations, masking losses off the books. The investigation unearthed underreported income and dubious deductions, triggering penalties that drained their accounts. Foreclosure notices arrived. The house they'd leveraged for Yvonne's plans slipped from their grasp. Yvonne's latest pitch crumbled without funding. She had no choice but to crash on friends' couches, forced back to square one. Family tensions exploded, Yvonne blaming Mom and Dad for the car debacle. Their bailout scheme had spectacularly backfired. Then came the calls. Mom pleading, sobbing, begging for forgiveness, lamenting that they had lost everything. We regret pressuring you, Dad muttered in a voicemail, his tone fractured. Yvonne sent texts of apology, confessing that the forgery had been her idea, now remorseful as creditors closed in. Their empire, built on favoritism and deception, lay exposed and hollow. I didn't reply. Tracking their regret through Alberta's updates delivered a cold satisfaction. They were feeling the weight of underestimating me. My report had shifted the balance, ensuring they lost their home, savings, and illusions of control. This wasn't vengeance for fun. It was accountability. After Harlan issued a cease and desist barring further contact, I blocked their numbers. Their collapse was self-made, but my intervention guaranteed it stuck. Life felt lighter without their looming presence. In the months that followed, I realized cutting ties was essential. Harlan moved fast, sending formal notices to Mom, Dad, Yvonne, and Octavia, clearly stating that my sedan was untouchable, backed by irrefutable records. He verified the title with county offices, sealing any loopholes. The letter warned of legal action for any future attempts. No responses came, but the silence spoke. They had exhausted all their maneuvers. Word trickled in through Aunt Alberta that the Neatville house had entered foreclosure. Their gamble on Yvonne's failure had drained their funds, leaving them unable to meet mortgage payments. Yvonne bunked briefly in their spare room before eviction, her schemes in tatters. Alberta recounted fiery arguments with Yvonne blaming Mom and Dad for failing to secure my car as their supposed safety net. Their plan to exploit my asset had collapsed, triggering finger-pointing among them. A flicker of pity arose. Nobody enjoys witnessing family unravel, but it faded fast. They'd engineered this disaster themselves, not me. My phone kept buzzing with messages. Mom's tearful pleas for reconciliation. Dad's sharp demands to reconsider Yvonne's claims, accusing me of ruining her future. I ignored everything. One quiet evening, parked in my Chicago spot with coffee in hand, I blocked every number. Mom, Dad, Yvonne. My finger hesitated briefly. Then hitting confirm lifted a weight I hadn't realized I carried. This wasn't cruelty. It was freedom from their control. Aunt Alberta and Uncle Milford offered to mediate, but I politely declined. Some bridges are meant to stay unbuilt. Life moved smoother afterward. My career skyrocketed. I landed a major role at a Chicago tech firm, designing their core software systems, databases, user interfaces, and security protocols. Each day challenged me, a testament to the years I'd spent scrapping through freelance gigs. Looking back, the experience cemented a lesson I'll never forget. Self-worth outweighs toxic family ties, even blood ones. I had spent too long seeking their approval, bending to their manipulations, but their attempt to seize my sedan shattered that chain. They treated my achievements as backups for their comfort, not my success. Ending contact stung initially, with nights of doubt over whether I'd been too harsh. Yet every drive in my glowing dashboard reaffirmed the choice. My car became a symbol of freedom, built through my skill and determination, untouchable by their reach. For anyone following this story, it's about more than a car dispute. It's a lesson in protecting your accomplishments. Family can uplift, but when they bind like chains, break free. Set limits, enforce them, and refuse to let guilt diminish your worth. I'm shaping my story now, rooted in independence, free from their manipulations. My work thrives. My sedan remains mine. And I've learned that my own approval is enough. That freedom is worth every confrontation. This ordeal taught me that placing self-respect above toxic family dynamics preserves mental peace and personal achievements. It builds resilience against manipulation, showing that boundaries are not selfish. They're vital. For viewers, this story underscores recognizing favoritism early and standing firm, empowering you to avoid similar pitfalls, cultivate healthier connections, or summon the courage to walk away. Thanks for watching. Your time matters. If this resonated, like, subscribe, and share your own experiences.